Hey family, we live. Welcome back. We have our sister on. We're 2 hours early today, but we got our sister Rosa back to talk about Our Lives Matter, Black girls and women, and what's going on with violence. Sis, I'm gonna let you take it from here, and it's gonna be you, and I'm gonna be behind the scenes following you.
All right. Hey, family. Welcome back. It's me, Rosa, coming back to you from Our Lives Matter, where we address violence and murders against Black women and girls in the community. The first story I have is right there on your screen. You see a man on your screen, and his name is Daryl Jones. He's a 40-year-old Black male, and Mr. Jones has been arrested for the murder and dismemberment, partial dismemberment of his girlfriend, Christy Jefferson, who is 38. This happened out of McKees Rocks, Pennsylvania. Her sister on August 29th had reported her missing. Police did go to the apartment on the 30th a couple times, but they said they didn't find anything out of the ordinary. Consequently, residents in the apartment had been complaining of a very foul odor in the building. And the neighbors took it upon themselves to investigate what this smell was. There was a refrigerator in the second floor hallway at the top of the stairs, and it had been turned in such a manner where the doors were facing the wall. It no longer worked, and I guess it was placed there. That's what they were thinking, because it would be thrown out. Well, neighbors opened it up, and they ended up finding Miss Christy Jefferson's partially dismembered body. And the refrigerator where her body was found was roughly 20 feet from the front door of her boyfriend's apartment. Now, the thing about this issue is her sister states that they had a long history of domestic violence. It was a violent, stormy relationship. A lot of times I do go to the victims' pages just to kind of see, how the person was posting, because sometimes you can get a feel for what the person was. Well, when I went to her page, as you see her right now, that's Miss Christy Jefferson, the victim. On her page, there are pictures of her with him. She has black eyes. The picture you see was one of the best photos I could find of her. This woman just never smiled. It was just a sad state of affairs. But again, it was a long, stormy history of domestic violence. As I always want to reiterate, if you are in a domestic violence situation, your best course of action is to leave. Don't give any hints. Don't let anyone know what your, what your movement is going to be. Just don't even let them in. Just get out, because the most dangerous time for a woman is when she's trying to leave a man. So, reach out. You can reach out to me on my page. I can help you with resources and whatnot. Our next story is out of Chicago, and this is Melissa Anderson, a 28-year-old Black woman. She was pronounced dead on May 4th after being shot in the head in Chicago. Someone drove away after she was shot in the head. Someone drove away after dropping her off at the medical center in Oak Park. I don't know, I'm sure police are looking at video surveillance and whatnot, but she had died of a gunshot wound to the head. Of course, it's a homicide. Detectives have said they have not located any witnesses to this shooting. And as of yesterday, they were unable to provide any additional information about the shooting, but it is a homicide, and that is Melissa Anderson. She was a 28-year-old Black female. Now, the next story is about a rapist who failed to register as a sex offender in Gwinnett County out of Georgia. He has multiple convictions, multiple arrests about, related to sex crimes against women. He received a 10-year sentence at one point and spent about 9 years behind bars in Wilcox State Prison. But after leaving prison in 2008, he did register as a sex offender, but his last known address was removed from the registry because he absconded last month. So his information is on the page. Anyone with information on his whereabouts is asked to contact the Gwinnett County Sheriff's Office out of Georgia. So just be mindful of this situation. He is a known sex offender, and his primary targets are Black women and girls. Now, this next story is out of, let me make sure where this is out of. This story is out of Georgia as well, I believe. Yes, it's out of DeKalb County. Now, this comes on the heels of this other hot button topic that I'm not going to address that's going on in the community right now. This is an 11-year-old girl who was 11-year-old Black girl who was basically falsely arrested by the police. Police came to her house saying that that this 11-year-old girl was suspected of trying to steal cars. Said that she was suspected of trying to steal a neighbor's car minutes before. They said they were looking for a 16-year-old. And when the mother tried to explain to the police, look, you can look at my Ring doorbell surveillance. My daughter's been in the house all day. It's no way she was involved in this. Of course, police didn't want to hear that. They didn't want to listen to the mother. They placed handcuffs on her daughter, put her in the back of the squad car, and said they were going to transport her to juvenile detention. It was only after the little girl told the police her age, and once officers heard that she was 11 and not 16, they said they were surprised to find out she wasn't 16. So they ultimately let her go. But of course, the mother is upset. So DeKalb County is saying that they're not aware of any concerns, but a spokeswoman for the department said she's going to look into the matter. My point in bringing this up is whenever we hear issues of law enforcement, bad behavior, or the way that they treat those in the Black community, we want to leave out that Black girls and women are also suffering abuses at the hand of law enforcement. We're never inundated on our timeline, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, what have you, whatever social media that you choose to use. We're never inundated on our timeline with things that go on with Black women and girls. And we need to stand behind the sister. I have reached out. I'm waiting for her to comment to see, or to contact me back and respond to see what it is that we can help her with. My goal, I hope, is that she does sue DeKalb County Police Department, because that was an unnecessary use of force in this situation. So again, let's share these stories about what's going on with our Black girls in the community, our Black women. Our next story out of South Carolina is a 13-year-old girl who was sexually assaulted on Facebook Live by the two offenders that you see on your screen, Tasheen Walker, who is 20, and Jonah Fishburne, who is 18. both of them lured this 13-year-old developmentally disabled girl to, they said that they wanted to ask her a question, or however they lured her. And consequently, they pulled her into a vacant house, proceeded to rape her, and posted it on Facebook Live. Now, there were actually 5 males involved in this. The 3 remaining suspects are still wanted. The girl was able to identify these 2 attackers, but it actually was a gang rape. It was actually 5 males who raped this 13-year-old. Like I said, 3 got away. These 2 were arrested because she was able to identify those 2. She was taken to a hospital for treatment, and while she was in the hospital, police arrested Walker and Fishburne a short time later. Now, the North Charleston Police Department are asking that the community not share any copies or screenshot of this Facebook Live video showing the sexual assault, as it contains child pornography, and sharing of the video images or links to it is a crime. So just be aware. Don't share that filth. I don't know why we have to see that crap on our timeline. We're always sharing videos when it comes to Black women being beat, assaulted, raped. You can see those videos being shared constantly on Facebook or social media in general. But when it gets down to it, posts like this that actually show perpetrators, who the perpetrators are, we don't want to talk about that. We don't want to talk about the face of the perpetrators. But many people are quick to show something that demeans Black women and girls. Instead of helping the problem, they're aiding in further victimization. Now, our next story is this next story comes out of Washington, D.C. These are 2 victims. These 2 young ladies you see on your screen are actually 2 victims that I featured on my page. It was not until someone sent a link to this article that showed me that both of these were cousins. These were cousins. Risha Blount is on the right side of your screen. She was 25, and the one on your left, Chantal Hill, was 20. Both of them were murdered by their boyfriends. 2 Black men murdered these 2 Black women on your screen. And it's just that this domestic violence is a very big issue in our community. And as you can see, this family has had to deal with 2 deaths, 2 weeks apart, back to back, during this pandemic, when we all know that funerals are, the way funerals are held, people can't mourn as a family unit properly. Friends can't really mourn. Nothing is really, everything is out of the ordinary right now. I don't know if it'll ever be back to normal, despite, what the news is saying. But 2 women, this family is heartbroken. And if we don't start addressing this issue of domestic violence, or as one of my followers, a male follower, actually has started calling it domestic abuse syndrome. That's what he's saying that a lot of Black men are suffering from. They're abusive. They're abusive to the women. Nobody is doing anything about it. Brothers want to keep it. And you know what? I'm gonna stop using the term brothers, because no brother of mine would be down for me getting my ass whooped or killed or any of that, and just sitting back and doing nothing. These Black men need to start taking accountability. for what other Black men are doing. Just like they expect Black women to be held accountable for, some of the behaviors that we exhibit in the community or among ourselves, just like we are being held accountable, they need to be holding other Black men accountable for their actions and what they're doing to Black women in the community. It is not up to Black women to tell Black men what to do. We can tell them how their behavior impacts us, but as a whole, they need to address their issues, and they need to address the issues that are going on amongst themselves. It should not be the burden should not be put in our lap for us to course correct. Black men need to start being accountable. And I don't know why telling Black men to be accountable is a crime in the community. It's just ridiculous. We can't keep going on like this. How many more Black women have to die before someone actually, before somebody actually says we have a problem in the community? Now, our next story comes out of Canton, Mississippi. This is Miss Alicia Lee. She was a 32-year-old Black woman. They found her last Sunday in a mobile home on Fannie Lane, out in Yazoo County. Police say she died as a result of multiple gunshot wounds. And right now, it's a homicide investigation being conducted. They don't have any leads. So again, they're asking the community if anyone has any information, if they could contact the Yazoo County Sheriff's Department. Now, our next story is another case of a man that has killed a Black woman. This is Mr. Clarence Watkins III. He's 41. This comes out of Columbus, Ohio. He is the former boyfriend or estranged boyfriend of Ziana Fraley, who was 24 years old. She was, police received a shots fired call last Sunday. And when officers arrived on the scene, they found the young woman, Miss Fraley. They found that she had been shot multiple times. She was pronounced dead a short time later. Now, it's alleged these are my words. It's alleged she wanted to leave the violent relationship. This is according to multiple people who have contacted me regarding this incident, who are related to or close to her. So this past Tuesday, a murder warrant was filed for Mr. Watkins. And as you can see, that's him on the screen. He's described as 5'11", about 180 pounds, and he has shoulder length braided hair. And according to police, he could be driving a black 2018 Honda Accord with silver accents and an Ohio license plate, HEP Harry Edward Peter 7743. Anybody with information on his whereabouts are asked to call the Columbus Police Homicide Unit at 614-645-4730 or the Central Ohio Crime Stoppers at 614-461-TIPS. Again, this is Clarence Watkins III, 41-year-old Black male out of Columbus, Ohio, wanted for the murder of Ziana Fraley, 24, and her face is going to be the next one you see on the screen. She was also, Miss Fraley was also the mother of a young son. I believe her son is toddler age, I believe he's 3 years old. And she was in a relationship with this 41-year-old man. And again, multiple sources have said it was a violent relationship. She wanted out of the relationship, and ultimately it cost her her young life. uh, Next story is just a little another sex crime, another sexual deviant. This man, they arrested him. He was arrested Tuesday afternoon, and he's charged with attempted rape, first degree sodomy, fourth degree sexual assault, and unlawful imprisonment. He's actually being held in the Louisville Metro Corrections jail because he kidnapped two women and raped them. And one of the women was able to get away, and she was found running down the street naked. And once police arrived, they were able to speak to the woman, and she told them that her and another woman were at the home of this 29-year-old Dominique Basque, and he actually wanted told the women he wanted them to perform a sex act. The one who was found naked running had refused, and he forced her to do so and began ripping her clothes off. And she said he punched her in the face and tried to force her to the ground in order to rape her. But luckily, he's in jail, so hopefully he'll stay there until his court date, and he'll get some good time for that. Now, this next story is out of Los Angeles. This man out of LA, he actually was from Florida. He was charged Monday with the fatal shooting of a 40-year-old man inside a Los Angeles motel more than 35 years ago. Now, the reason I put it up here because not only did he kill this man, he was also charged with robbery, rape, burglary, lying in wait, and torture. Back in 1984, him and another man forced their way into a motel out in LA and raped a 23-year-old woman at gunpoint in front of her 1-year-old child. They were actually waiting for their intended target to return to the room, but since she was there, they actually went ahead and took advantage of that situation. And when the target came in, they actually demanded money and drugs, and eventually they did kill him. But DNA from the room actually matched this man you see on the screen, and so he was finally arrested, or 35 years later, he's finally going to be held accountable, not only for that murder, but for the rape of that young woman in front of her child. Now, I'm waiting for the next story to load. You probably, for some reason, the face isn't loading on this next one, but I'm sure many of the followers will remember this story. Back in 2017, the mother who stated that her daughter had went to help the stepfather. Somebody had called the stepfather in the middle of the night and or early in the morning hours, and the girl had supposedly went with him while he was supposed to help fix a friend's car, or somebody had some car trouble. Anyway, the mother and the father and the stepfather were later arrested because the daughter's remains were found about a year later in a shallow grave of a vacant house. LaTanya Carwell was the missing teen, and Leon Tripp was the 41-year-old stepfather. And he's actually pleading not guilty to charges of murder, cruelty to children, and concealing the death of Miss LaTanya Janelle. Her mother is also charged because she actually covered up the crime and everything. She reported her daughter and her husband missing on April 17th, which was actually supposed to be the young lady's 16th birthday. And we all remember the story, how she came on the news crying, talking about how she was a victim of cancer. Later, it was her family came out, and the family was like, they don't know any of this rigmarole that she's talking about. The family was upset at this woman. And come to find out, she was concealing everything that was going on with her daughter. She knew that this man probably had raped and murdered her daughter, and she really kept up with the lie until police eventually closed in on both of them. And now they've been sitting in jail. And actually, Leon Tripp is supposed to have another hearing on May 21st and 22nd. They're trying to file another motion because it was on track for a 19-month delay, but it's supposed to go for another hearing is going forward on March 21st and 22nd. I mean, we're talking more than 3 years after the disappearance and murder of this girl. It's ridiculous. And the mother, this is one of those cases where a mother is complicit, and we don't hold back on male identified women such as her. Male identified women who are complicit in the abuse of their children, as well as complicit in the abuses and murders of other Black women and girls. We hold them to the same standard that we do these men in the community who do the same crap to us. So don't hold back on it just because she's a mother and try to say, oh, she might have been brainwashed. Bull crap. She lied for this man. This is just a story out of Athens, Georgia, right there on your screen, about a man who attacked a University of Georgia student. They're really on the lookout for him because she was going into her apartment, and this man came up behind her, attacked her, knocked her out cold, and this was the description of the person that they have. So if you're in that area, the University of Georgia or Athens, Georgia area, go ahead and share this story. This is a dangerous man, and he really needs to be found. This next story, again, is another story about a father who hurt his child. 10-year-old boy was hurt in a shooting out in Phoenix. The father was mishandling a gun. From what I understand, he was playing around with the gun, and he's too old for that. He's 47 years old, playing around with the gun, mishandling it. The gun went off and shot the child. Even though the child suffered serious injuries, the child has survived and is expected to recover. But I mean, we've heard these stories all the time where guns are left out. Children get a hold to them, and the next thing you know, either the child is dead or the child shoots someone else who ends up dying as a result of a unsecured firearm. So just another cautionary tale to lock your guns up, get gun locks. You can go to any police department, sheriff's department, and get gun locks. These things are given out to the community for free. This is another story again out of Georgia. A grandmother back in 2018, some of you may have heard about this story. Again, law enforcement abusing a Black woman. They pulled over this grandmother. She was 65 when it happened. She's 67 now, but they used excessive force against her during a traffic stop, and she's seeking $1.5 million in damages. She's filed this in federal court. She suffered a lot of physical injuries that required surgery, emotional trauma, and she's been unable to work consistently since May 2018 of this incident. One of the police officers who were involved, he went ahead and left the force, but it was so much. Her lawsuit says that her constitutional rights were violated. Her back, shoulder, neck, and knee were injured due to the violence, and her injuries are permanent. She's undergone surgery for a separated shoulder, treatment for her back and neck, and she's scheduled for surgery for her knee. Now, again, where are the stories about this going viral. I just spoke to you about the 11-year-old girl who was illegally arrested on some trumped up charges about her possibly being involved in stealing a car. And now this about the grandmother. I don't see anything. All it takes is for one Black man to be done wrong by law enforcement, and that's all you see on your timeline. That's all you see. This is somebody's grandmother. This is somebody's mother. Where is the outrage on the abuse that she suffered? Again, Black women and girls are just silent citizens in our own community. We're invisible. We're basically invisible until the time when someone says, we need you all to speak up on a matter. We can skip this. This is just teens out fighting in an Instagram feud out in Georgia. I know Georgia's off the chain here lately. And this was just I was just sharing a story from a sister. Last year, I actually featured a story on this young lady. She was killed October 25th last year by her boyfriend. And this post is really about domestic violence awareness because this young lady was killed by her estranged husband in front of her daughters. And again, the Black community, Black men, you all are really letting the community as a whole down by not standing up against your brothers who are doing wrong.
Right on, sis. Well, you shared a lot with us today. I shared all the stories in the comments. You want to put some final thoughts, or I shared the page and all the stories that you shared, I shared. This is important. Like, I'm really dedicated to make sure that we talk about this more in our community. We're going to talk about what happened on the Real Housewives. We're going to talk about, you know, one person being done wrong, but the women in your community are under attack and are being murdered and abused, and it is crickets. Something's wrong. Something's wrong with us. It says to the whole world that we don't give a damn about the life bringers. We don't give a damn about the girls and women in our community who sustain life because we bring life. Life comes through us.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
And just to follow up what you just said, a woman who follows my page, a comment something she said, I posted on my page. And this is what her comment is, and I quote, "Notice how no one ever says, that could have been my mother, aunt, grandmother, sister, or niece when it comes to the Black woman. Not even other Black women." Now, that statement is so deep and is so true, because I remember when Trayvon Martin was killed. Even President Obama came out and said that could have been his son. We're constantly indoctrinated to say that anything that happens against a Black man, we are indoctrinated to look at him as our fathers, our brothers, our uncles, our cousins, our husbands, our sons. We're constantly bombarded with that message from our own people. But when it happens to, that's what we're supposed, they want Black women to look at the Black male collective as all of those things I listed. But when a Black woman or girl is done wrong, murdered, abused, harmed in any shape, form, or fashion, she's now become an individual. They don't look at her as a collective of a relation. They don't look at her collectively. The first thing they say is they separate her from the herd, and they say, "Oh, that's on her. That was it was an isolated incident. She should have chose better. What did she do?" But we don't look at Black men as individuals or Black boys when it comes to crimes of humanity against them. Because what we see in our community, and I want to bring this again loud and clear. These are crimes against humanity when it comes to what's going on in our community against Black women. This is femicide. I don't want to talk about femicide that's going on in India. I don't want to talk about femicide that's going on in Africa. Black women and girls are being murdered senselessly. And this is an act of aggression and a betrayal of humanity. It just goes against humanity, what's going on in our community. And yet we don't stand for it. But one Black man can get harmed, murdered by the police. And this is not to take anyone's death in vain. But what about ours? Right now, we're close to 300 Black women in our community. None of those stories are going viral. None of those issues are going viral. But right now, it's a hot button topic about someone who was a Black man who was killed. Just take that into account. How many dead Black women and girls have to pile up to equal one Black male death?
Wow. Wow. That's really what this is about. That's really what this is about. And for some reason, we can't see it unless a white person is involved.
We can't
see it unless a white person. We cannot self-govern. That's a problem.
Yes. Accountability is something that is lacking. It's frowned upon. It's like you didn't curse somebody's soul and their family if you bring up the word accountability.
It's like kryptonite, like it is Superman.
It is. It's like bring up the word accountability and see how they scatter like roaches when a light is turned on.
That's real talk, sis. That's real talk.
All right. Well, I know you have to prepare for your next meeting.
No, thank you, sis. Every week, I'm just so grateful. First of all, thank you. And may God keep and bless you for the work that you're doing, not just with this, but your nurse as well. Like you're out there on the front lines. Typical Black woman.
Yes, but the one thing that I have started doing, I've stopped putting myself on the front lines for those who refuse to reciprocate the same.
That part.
My personal is one thing. Professionally, hey, I got to make a living like the rest of us. But I don't have to do that in my personal life. My personal life mission is to take care of Black women and girls and for us to see what's going on in our community and bring attention to that.
And get very familiar, people, with the word Black femicide. This is an issue. Like, police brutality, you got to look at Black femicide. That should be on your lips and on your mind and on your page. And not only should it be on there, you should be doing something about it.
Yes. You are so welcome. And again, anyone can feel free to contact me via the page or email me. And I'm more than willing to listen. But I'm not about to have a debate on this issue.
No, me either.
It's not up for debate.
Peace and blessings, sis.
See you later. Have a good day.
You too. Peace.